Welcome to Timeout, a podcast that brings creatives together for helpful and insightful discussions. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hey Andrew, welcome to the show.
Yes, is.
How's it going, mate? You
I'm
okay?
good. Thank you.
Great, man. Been a long time coming. Wanted to have you on because you are one of my favorite photographers with a lot of experience, and I think a lot of people who watch this show also will take a lot of valuable information from your insight into the industry and what you do. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Perfect. So I'm Andrew Mclean. I'm a photographer from Sheffield, pretty much covering mainly Northern England. I do fashion, weddings, corporate, commercial, shoot film, got a YouTube channel. I'm basically pretty much everywhere on socials doing whatever I can, really.
That is quite diverse then. So you're pretty,
Yeah,
versatile person dipping your feet into a lot of different things.
yeah, definitely.
So, you know, I think each photographers have their own, separate style that separates them from, everyone else. How would you describe your style in photography? Like, what is it you're trying to do with your niche?
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to sort of define my style. I mean, in terms of if you're going to look at it technically, tend to have sort of relatively muted colours. I like to play around with highlights. I like to work with contrast. But really, I just try and get something a little bit different. Try and have a little bit of emotion in there. And I think I just always try to develop and get better and better and better, which is ironic because as you scroll down the feed, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
if getting better, hopefully the pictures should get worse as you get further down.
Yeah, I mean, in the order where it's ending. And I've definitely noticed how your style, there's always that consistency of the contrasty, um, images you're talking about and those muted tones. And I definitely see like some impact in using that. It just makes your images feel so much more punchy in 3D, don't they? Like
Yeah,
those muted, contrasty images.
I hate flat images, and that's the reason why I like shooting film, because with film I go completely the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Film I love kind of sort of really muted, hazy, like faded colours,
Would you
faded.
say your digital work is kind of like inspired a little bit by film?
Yeah, so basically, like what I try to do is everything that I like about film, I try to bring into digital, and
Hmm.
what I try and do is try and kind of flip it. So whereas with your film shots, you're not going to have really punchy contrast. You're not going to have images that sort of jump out at you. I then try to kind of do that more with digital, so that there's a real difference between the two.
What do you think film photographers feel about a lot of digital photographers trying to replicate film? I've never really asked anyone that yet, but I think
Oh,
you're
I
one of the
think
perfect people to ask that.
yeah, I think it all depends on who the film photographer is and what they're like as a person, because the film photography community is pretty much, in my opinion, split in half.
You
So
think
you've
so?
got Yeah, so you've got half of the film photography community that just love film, and whether they're brand new to it or whether they've been doing it for years, they love it. They've got that energy about it, that passion for it, which is what I've got, and they love other people getting that passion. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, our friend Megan, when she wanted to get into film, me and our other friend Sophia were absolutely encouraging her, really pushing her for it,
Mm-hmm.
and love what she did with it. Whereas the other side of the film community is your generally middle-aged white guy that thinks that because he shot film in 1973, nobody born after that year is allowed to enjoy film or play around with film or try and push film or try and do things with film.
Yeah, I talked about this with Sophia that sometimes it can feel like a gated community depending on where you which
Absolutely.
on where you land, in terms of where you're learning film and kind of glad, I'm learning it from you guys because there's only
Yeah,
encouragement there, but yeah, there's a lot of
yeah. There's a lot of
criticism.
gatekeepers. There's a lot of gatekeepers.
Yeah, gatekeepers is probably the right word. Yeah, and I think with digital, I think some of the benefits that you don't get with film is like you said, those punchy, contrasty, muted, you have a lot more like control over like the tones. And I've not really talked
Uh,
about editing as much on this podcast. So like compared to like, film, like what do you think are some of the benefits of digital? Like
well,
what
for example, you look at these images that you're going past the New York ones. So the one that's
this one
in the
here?
middle now, yeah. So that one, and then a couple before that, there's one of so a little bit higher, the one of the Statue of Liberty.
This one?
Yeah. So for example, in them ones, oh no, not that one, the Statue of Liberty one.
Oh, here we go.
There you go, that's the one. Yeah. So for example, in these, the the water around Manhattan is not that color. The sky is not that color.
Right.
And if I shot those on film, those really kind of deep teals would be blue. Or to be fair, actually, probably be really, really light, really light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with
Bit
this,
bit bit more true to life, you'd say.
exactly, yeah. Whereas with pretty much all of my New York photos, I wanted to play around with them and I wanted to bring that in because I think that that kind of fits in with what I think when I think about New York. So when I think about New York, I think about it being gritty and
Yeah.
street level and busy. And I don't want it to be all bright and nice and rainbows because that's not what New York feels like to me. And I want my images to show what I feel like that. These images that you're showing now, they're all
Yeah.
muted colors. Nothing's kind of bright in your face apart from red. Red's the only
Mm-hmm.
color that I let be kind of true to life in them photos.
They really are like, popping on the reds for sure. I
Yeah,
can really like yeah, you know what? The benefits you get of digital is like I think that was probably harder to do with film unless you're physically editing
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly.
images, is
Dark,
that it's easier to just like express what you are feeling in that moment, right?
yeah,
And everyone like feels so differently and sees so differently, and it's partly the reason why when you edit the way you do, it's like I know it's your shot. It's like another way you can create that little niche of yours, right?
that's
I
it.
bet
Like,
that must have been so hard to do back in the days.
oh god, I can't even imagine. Like, I've still not ventured into to looking at developing my own film yet because I'm purely because of confidence and not knowing what to do. And you can watch all videos in the world, but I think that I'd still want kind of to try that with somebody for my first time. But
Hmm.
the thought of
Wow,
thought of
this guy is very extra.
oh my god, honestly,
He
that
is loving life.
yeah, like how can you walk past that person and not photograph them?
Yeah, honestly, you captured a really good moment there. But sorry, you were saying.
But yes, I can't even imagine what it's like to develop that film, go into dark room and sort of look at how you bring it out kind of
Just
different
anticipating like how it's going to turn out. You know what I
exactly
mean?
experience must you need to be able to expose those correctly.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I think maybe that's why there's such a, there's such like this like charisma to constantly like validate the old gatekeepers. Like, listen, I went through all the struggle of doing it in such an organic process that now you have it in an app where you can just do a few sliders. And
Yeah,
I think that kind of attitude, like you're diminishing like how many points of views you can express because not everyone's going to jump on film because it is such a heavy task, but lots
yeah.
of people can jump into digital, enjoy
Um,
it, get comfy with it, then side transition into film after, and it's like a digital can be a gateway to film.
do you know what? Do you know what I think is funny is I felt the same. I felt the same way. Probably sort of 6, 7, 8 years ago when I was shooting with Canon 5D Mark threes.
Hmm.
I felt the same way about mirrorless cameras at that point that I think film photographers feel uh, digital
Oh
images now.
yeah, we have our own little like
No,
little
I mean, like,
separation now, aren't
like
we?
even on a much smaller level. Like, I didn't kind of think less of somebody if they were shooting with a mirrorless camera, but I always thought, well, a mirrorless camera is just basically like a point and shoot, and I want to have more control, and I need to have more,
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to have, and I need to have a DSLR. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously, the first time that I tried a Sony mirrorless camera, I was like, oh, Okay. Yep, I'm
Now,
wrong.
now you see the benefits of it. Yeah, I was the exact same. I was using a 5D Mark IV, and I was like, wow, I feel like such a pro because all the pros I see are using this big chunky camera, and then I get the mirrorless, and I'm like, eye tracking? What? I never have
Yeah,
to miss. And they encouraged me to take more risks with moving
honest.
shots. Like there were a lot of things that I was holding back with the DSLR and with the
Yeah,
mirrorless. Like this is the future now. I mean, like even some of the newer DSLR cameras have mirrorless features in them, and it's
yeah,
like this. And who wouldn't want a smaller footprint? Like let's be honest. For
absolutely.
traveling, for just strain, for stability. I mean, I don't know about stability. Maybe like larger might
Yeah.
be better for that, but there's just
Well,
so much benefits
like,
to it.
go down to Josh's setup and that image there.
This one,
Yeah.
it's
So his setup,
compact, isn't it?
look how compact that is, and
It's like vlogging
that's like
right in
a
front of you.
6 gram, it's like a 6 gram setup.
Yeah, you for the first
So
time we got high budget vlogging, didn't we? On the go.
yeah, so high end that, but
Yeah, high
look how
budget vlogging. I would not want to hold a 5D Mark IV with a Rode mic and a massive lens.
exact.
It's like you're doing bicep curls on the go. I was like, no thanks, I'm good.
That's it. A
Oh
1D
man.
with a Canon 16 to 35L lens on.
Yeah. It
You're
it
gonna vlog.
can Oh yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think then overall makes a good image? Like what do you think makes a good shot? Like we've talked about like, to some degree like mirrorless
Yeah,
can really help you get the gear, but obviously not everyone's like setups is so diverse. So, what do you
absolutely.
think like makes a good image?
I think
It's
I
a
think
cliche
and
question, but
this no, absolutely. And like this image that you've brought up here that I posted tonight, this is an example. It just makes me feel something. Like it makes me ask questions. Like if I was looking at that
Hmm.
image and I didn't know the background about it, I'd be the first thing that I'm going to think is, where is that? What is he looking at? What's happening in this
Mm.
image?
Yeah, it's like
And
there's a bit of mystery there, isn't it?
yeah, and especially like the fact that he's looking away from the camera rather than towards it.
Yeah, that is very like different.
Yeah, and
For
it's
sure.
I think anything that makes you ask questions, and no matter what that question might be, but anything that draws you in and makes you
Just stay there for
think,
longer, isn't it? Like you're staying
yeah,
and appreciating that image a bit longer, aren't you?
yeah.
It's like
And
drawing
that's
you in.
even like even with a shop for a clothing brand. If it makes you ask a question, if it makes you ask something,
Yeah, I mean, like this one to me, it's like you could have easily shot that front on in the studio, but you've chose to like break out of the studio a bit, and I like how you're playing with that sort of idea. Like
yeah,
it's like a lot of people might find that it's easier to work inside the box, but there's so much more outside to play with if you really like start looking in the boundaries of like how you take a picture, what makes a good picture.
that's it.
Like there are just so many like ways to hold. I think it makes you hold attention longer because
Yeah,
I think on especially because we're all sharing our images online now, there's so much saturation of about, the
absolutely.
classical style of shots. So you got to find your ways and how you take that picture and how you
Yeah.
do it differently. I love this shot, by the way. This is insane.
Yeah, do you know what? Honestly, but again with that shot, and it's quite funny because that's again that Scott that's in the image, and again
Yeah, right
they're
there.
looking away from you, and it just makes you question. It's like, where is that?
Makes you wish you were
What
there, being him right now.
exactly? Anything that makes you feel any kind of way about
Yeah.
it, that means that it struck a chord. And if you strike a chord with an image,
Hmm.
you've succeeded. In my opinion, anyway.
No, I love it. I feel like the way you capture your shots, the way you've been doing it so long, you're definitely like you've harnessed a style that like I know like when I see it is yours and it's it has a lot of range. Like you can pull off a lot of animated shots, you can pull off I'd say, shots with a lot of like emotion. The
Yeah,
edits are great and it's you're trying to tell stories with a lot of them as well. It's like
yeah,
do you ever
yeah.
just like think, I wonder if they notice me? I'm like being a bit weird following this person.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, that guy in Santorini, I literally
Mm,
went for a walk early in the morning. He was just there on his own.
right.
Uh, and what I love about these two images is I love them as a pair of images.
Yeah, it's really, really, really
I
good.
really, I really wish that you could post two images side by side on Instagram and actually still be able to see them.
Yeah, without doing like a crazy like
Exactly, yeah.
panel thing. Yeah,
I just again like with that, that's in two photos. I've created a story there.
definitely. I mean, it's
Like it's
the
literally it's him fishing and then him going home. But there's they're fluid. They work together.
yeah, yeah, and the colors. Honestly, it just I can feel the weather. It's like, oh
Yeah,
god, that must have been cold as hell.
yeah, man.
Oh my goodness. I think your work speaks for itself. You got a lot of range, and there's so many like stories you're trying to tell, and you're just dipping your feet in different ends, and we'll come back to that
Yeah,
kind of like the range question a little bit later. But your pictures, a lot of people are gonna ask you like, what kind of gear are you using? So, what's your opinion in terms of like gear and how much gear does someone need and when is the right time to upgrade? What should you start off with?
yeah.
What do you use like?
So, well, in fact, I've got my setup here. So I've got this, which I've just bought, which is a Sony A7R4A.
Okay, wow. I'm totally not jealous.
Pretty much, aside from the A1, which is 6.5 grand, which is obscene, it's pretty much the best photo uh, camera, off photo-based camera that Sony do.
And how
And
many
then
megapixels are we rocking on that?
61.2.
RIP your hard drive then, I guess.
Yeah, I genuinely, I shot, I shot with it for the first time on Friday, and the compressed files are 60 megabytes.
That's still bigger than my actual raw files on an A7 III.
Yeah,
That's
that's my
absolutely
A3.
ridiculous.
My A3, the
Right.
unzip files are 50 megabytes.
Yeah, so that's the one I have as well. And, I can just barely get by with that on a hard
Yeah,
drive. Never mind. So you're 100 megabytes per file on the A7 IV.
yep,
Oh, that is ridiculous. I
yeah.
think I think one Netflix episode that I download on my iPad is probably like a 20-minute show is less than that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's.
mental.
I did. I had an all day shoot for a client on Sunday. I say all day. Obviously, we finished before football. Um, but I had an all day shoot, and it took about 45 minutes to offload my files.
And
Just
obviously like even on like a fast, hard drive and like I bet that you're still going to be waiting, aren't you?
yeah, absolutely.
Oof. What would you?
But
Why do you need that? Like, what made you want to upgrade? Because people always want to ask themselves, like, when's the right time to upgrade? How long did it
yeah,
take you to upgrade from an A7 III to the A7R4?
3 years. 3 years. I got the A7 III when it came out, and I've not upgraded since. So that was 2018 February, I think, February March 2018, and it has done every single thing that I've needed it to do since then. Literally, the only reason why I've upgraded to the A7R4 is because of something that we'll talk about a little bit later, which is where I'm wanting to move with my career.
All
And
right, great.
I'm going to be basically, I'm going to be using one of these quite a lot.
Okay, so you're gonna be
Um,
going full on tether,
yeah, and
capture
because
one, that kind of stuff.
of that, um, when I'm taking images, they'll be going straight into cloud storage rather than onto a hard drive, or rather than onto a memory card. Uh,
Yeah,
and so file size is not an issue, but also I want the biggest resolution images that I can because of the size that they'll need to be.
yeah. I mean, that is going to require some horsepower as well on the computer end, I bet as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like it's ridiculous. Like what an upgrade up front sounds like, but then what it actually really needs later on is ridiculous. So,
100%.
is that basically your main cameras that you use then?
Yeah, I've also got an A6300, which basically I just use for
Yeah.
YouTube.
This video is not sponsored by Sony.
I wish it was. But like I say, with the A7R4, the only reason why I upgraded is because of a client. If I wasn't moving in this direction, I wouldn't need to change from the A7 III. The A7 III might be 3 years old, but it does everything that I need it to. It's a fantastic camera for images. It's a fantastic camera for video.
I
Um,
love mine,
obviously,
honestly.
Canon, Canon
I've
do the same.
seen your
I'm doing.
gear.
If you get if you get a camera that does everything that you need it to, you don't need to upgrade, regardless of how old it might be. If it does what you need it to, you don't need to upgrade. If there's something that you want it to do that it doesn't, then you've got a decision to make. Because do you want a camera that does something to say that you've got a camera that does something, or do you want a camera that does something because that's going to get you more clients, or it's going to get you more work, or it's going to push into new
That's
areas?
the million
That's
dollar
the
question, isn't
reason.
it?
That's the reason why you should upgrade, not just because it's shiny and it's new.
I just want to upgrade because I have FOMO, fear of missing out, man. Like I see a lot of people flexing online, YouTube, Instagram. Like temptation
100%.
is so, you know, there's just so much temptation. And I was speaking to one of my friends, and he just got the A7S III, and I'm like, oh my god. And then
Do
I'm
you know
like,
what?
maybe I should.
The A7S III. Do you know
Mm,
how many times I've added that to basket to replace
yeah.
300 and then
Oh
realize,
really?
what am I doing? I don't need to. This does what I need it to.
Yeah.
That money I would be spending is better spent elsewhere.
I mean, you bought yourself the A7 IV, and if you're very photography based, then why would you need a video specialized camera, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the same question I asked myself. I was like, well, I'm not only video specialized, I need both. So I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for a
Great space.
camera,
Oh,
A7 IV, if it's even going to release. I'm sure it's going to release this year. I just don't know when.
yeah.
Um, but I've been hearing a lot about like supply shortages for like chips and
Yeah.
technology, and I'm like, man, even September or this winter might be wishful thinking at this rate. But it's
Yeah.
not. It's really not changed my clients' needs, because on the client end, to be honest, when you really bring that project to what it needs to be on social media, a lot of the times, and that's what I'm mainly shooting for, social media. It's like on the client end, is not really much difference.
No.
Um,
Like, what is a client going to really know the difference between 1080, 4K, or 4K that's downsampled from 8K?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like on a small phone, probably not. Yeah, which is kind of like a blessing. And I think a lot of people need to understand that even with the A6400, that small camera that you have, you can do wonders with it. Honestly, you can make a living off it, and once you save a little bit of cash on the side, then after like 3 years it took you, you can figure out when's the right time to upgrade.
That's it. You want to invest in yourself because it's going to be an investment. You want it rather than just buying something for yourself. You want to be investing. So you want to be buying something that's going to make money back for you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that once you buy the camera, you need to find a way to buy it to like pay it off, because it really makes
100%.
it more worthwhile then. Like it's like, you've got the camera, but then if it's just sitting there doing absolutely nothing of value, then like what was the point of it? So
Absolutely.
yeah, find ways to, really make that money back.
This A7 III in 3 years has paid for itself 100 times over.
Yeah, for sure. Like honestly, and if you guys need camera recommendations, then my god, like the A7 III is on such good deals right now. Like it's almost hitting close to like, as I know I say low, like £1,000 for just the body on its own, but
Yeah, yeah,
the similar competitors are like the same as well in its little end. So I think
absolutely.
I think I think you couldn't even go wrong with a crop sensor camera like the A6400 as well. So figure out what your needs are. Do you shoot a lot in daylight? Maybe do you need full frame? Do you need all of the video features? Are you just shooting photo? But then again, what I also wanted to talk to you about was like, should photographers just do photography now? Because you brought it up to me before that Instagram is now kind of transitioning into a video content prioritized website.
Yeah,
So that would be very interesting. So, a lot of photographers right now are thinking, that what do they do with their main page and how do they change it? So like one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, and for those who haven't heard, like, was it last week the creator of
Yeah,
Instagram said that they're really changing their whole system of how Instagram's going to be like
yeah,
recommending content to everyone, and if you have video, it's going to be in like the more chance of getting recommended and
absolutely. Yeah,
prioritized. What's
yeah,
your
man.
opinion on that?
It also apparently they're bringing out a like a for you page on Instagram, and video is going to be prioritized on there as well. And I
Yeah.
just like the owner of Instagram is saying that it's no longer solely a photo sharing app. Like
Yeah.
that's that was the whole point of it.
Let me
Um,
just try and find that video.
yeah, man, this is
It
crazy.
says video. Yeah, it's Instagram CEO teases new feature. It was like a video he said, but yeah, essentially they want to compete with like TikTok and YouTube. And I was just like, okay, so what does that mean? Oh, there's been something there. Yeah, what does that mean? Like, are we gonna have to start changing like what our the content that we make now? Or we are no longer a photo sharing app. The number one reason people say they use Instagram is probably because it was the most popular photo sharing app, wasn't it now? And
Yeah.
they've got competition. So, what's your plans for the content going forward?
Do you know what I mean? That that image that I posted tonight was the first one that I've posted in, I don't know, maybe a week or so. I really don't post often on Instagram anymore. I don't particularly think about posting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I might just think, oh, I'll pop something up today. Um, and I honestly, I just think that Instagram's just it's the I think this is the beginning of the end for
Oh,
Instagram as a
that
tool for
that sounds
photographers.
scary.
Honestly, I do. Like. I know that it's a big statement, but I think for photographers, I think
Right.
this is the beginning of the end for Instagram.
Do we need an intervention? Is that what you're saying?
Honestly, I just want to sit him down and just go, just please. Video is for TikTok
Mm-hmm.
and YouTube. Just leave us to our photos and give us better resolution, please.
I would like better resolution photos for sure.
I,
That
I
would help.
I do think that I'm going to start using Twitter a lot more for my images.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even know there was a Twitter community for photography until, I was speaking to Sophie and I was like, yeah, well, there is. I thought Twitter was just like political hot takes. I was like, I don't really
no,
want to go on Twitter. I've not used it in over 4 years. And to be honest, like, I didn't even realize there was a growing photography community. But hey, like,
good time.
Instagram's now becoming a video site. So
Well,
it's
that's it.
interesting.
You've got no compression or greater reduced compression.
Yeah.
The images just look so much better, and that's what's important to
And we've
photographers.
also had to learn how to all go from traditionally making, horizontal videos to now vertical videos. And,
Yeah,
it's such a crazy switch. I mean, for Gen Z, it really isn't. But, like
yeah,
millennials, like us, like we just like, I don't know. Like I'm trying to get on TikTok. Like this is my goal, right? YouTube, I'm here now. I'm trying.
yeah,
TikTok, definitely. Like I've made it my mission on every like, oh, reels, whatever you want to because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
both the same, right? I want to try and do what people call like, the micro content gig.
yeah,
And I mean, I've seen you play around with some and it's just it doesn't sound, I think what Instagram means when they mean video is like they want to try and kind of boost a lot of this kind of content, like the micro
yeah.
content.
Do you know
So,
what? This shows how long ago. So what's that? November that
oh
I last.
yeah, November 2020.
Um, I just really find it difficult to be motivated with video. Um,
The thing is though, like, is it how is it kind of like this is what because I see other people and other photographers do it, and a lot of them say, work smart. Like when you're filming content or taking pictures, it's literally like as something like this
yeah,
could absolutely blow up overnight on
yeah,
TikTok because it might just be something that people are looking for. And it's like, how much effort did you put into that video? And then if that blows up, then how much attraction are you going to get to your main pages like this and like
Yeah,
that? So there's huge incentives of actually doing it now. And I think what I'm trying
big
to do
time.
now on shoots is just do a little bit of like behind the scenes recording, and I'm going to try and see how it works. And it's a
Do
lot
you
more
know
effort though.
motivation? I'm just not motivated to do it because I just think I'm
Extra thing you have to think about
only
on the
doing
shoot.
this. It's like it's not even that because I don't mind filming because obviously I've got a YouTube channel. I'm used to filming,
Hmm.
but it just annoys me. I'm not motivated to do it because I know that I'm not doing it for the right reasons. I'm only doing it to keep up with the algorithm. I'm only doing it to keep my feed in front of more eyes, and I just hate it.
Yeah, I see your point. I think and it can really pull you out the experience of actually just being in the moment, doing the shoot, and then realizing, oh, I need micro content. Oh, I need like some YouTube content. Oh, I need to do this. It's almost become like a chore in it. And whereas photography for me started out,
Exactly.
and for you, I bet as well, as like an escape, a hobby, which has turned into like a passion and like like a side gig and all this kind of stuff for a lot of people. Full-time jobs. It's like I think we all have to some degree now think of ourselves as like content creators, little
Yeah.
micro YouTubers and all that kind of stuff. And I see you doing YouTube as well. So are you finding the longer form content much more fun to do?
Yeah. Do you know what I used to make videos that were for myself and other people, and then I fell
Hmm.
into making videos for other people, and then I got back to making videos for me. Like that's why there's so many videos around film because like film is a passion. Film I don't do for uh, I don't do offer film photography really as a service to most clients. Like just some I do, but to most I don't. The vast majority of film that I shoot is for myself. And because I've got a passion for that, and because I enjoy that, that's why I like making the longer form content around it.
Hmm.
Because something that I am doing that for the right reasons because I'm doing that for me. And with YouTube, it's like anything. It's a long term. It's a long term plan. It's a long game that you
Yeah.
have to do with it.
Bit more room to breathe, isn't it? Like
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're not with me on YouTube. I'm not trying to make that one video that goes
viral content.
exactly. Yeah, I'm wanting to
Yeah.
build a body of work, and if it doesn't pay me a single penny, if in 10 years I can look back and say this is where I started, this is where I am now, and this is how I got here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a whole value to archiving like your content. Like I always say to people, like you're living in the age of archive, and even if it doesn't make a single penny, you have something there that your future generations or people who admire your work could always go back and be like, "Yo, that was
Absolutely.
Andrew in the process doing his thing. Let me see what I can learn from it." People will take what they need from it. You know what I mean? And it's,
Yeah,
and I think part of photography think what people back in the days really mixed out, because the only way you could really get attention back in the days, unless you're on TV,
yeah,
publications, magazines, all this. I don't even know about radio much, but like it's not really visual, but still. Now it's like sharing the experience is that extension of photography. Like I could sit here and literally just watch you take pictures and then just see the before and afters because there's something so satisfying about you capturing the shot and then
yeah,
doing it good. And even if you miss, it's like you valuable lessons you teach me so I don't make those mistakes later.
yeah, man. That's it. It's like people watch long form content for one of two reasons normally, and that's to be either educated or entertained. And if you can try and do something where you do both,
Edutainment.
you know,
There you go.
that's nice.
Edutainment. I'm
That's
pretty
nice.
sure that's a word. I'm pretty sure that is a word. Look at
I,
it. It's the images. Wow. But yeah, no, there is something really satisfying about YouTube. And yeah, so along with the podcast, I really want to do what you're doing, and I'm hoping I can do that because I don't think anyone scrutinizes the fact that like your behind the scenes needs to be so crazy high budget. It just needs to like people
oh,
just want to just see it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I'm just hoping my iPhone's enough for a BTS vlog.
but some of my most watched videos are shot either on a GoPro or on my phone.
Oh yeah, the GoPro, so nice, like little nifty camera, and it's like, like there's so much content like here that people would be willing to just sit down here and learn more than they ever could in like. I always like bash university for this, but I always feel like when I'm at university, I'm waiting for the lesson to happen that I want, because I have to appeal to so many different, people. It's just impossible to, right? And whereas on YouTube, it's like, bam, search it in, there you go, you got it.
That's it. You have to. I think for me, to make videos that will succeed on YouTube and whatever you define success as, you need to be answering a question that somebody's asking in that search bar.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. That's a great way.
whether that is what does this camera perform like, or whether that is how does this camera work, or how do you use this feature of of editing software. Like, even if it's something as simple as what's your favorite photo,
Yeah,
what's your camera,
absolutely.
like anything. If you've got an answer for some whatever somebody's typing into that search bar, it's gonna be successful.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm guessing this is like the behind the scenes of you bringing those shots to life that we were looking at before. And it's just like, it's like an extension of something we didn't get to see, and that's what's so satisfying about like the way I like how you can do video on YouTube. Like, yes, like TikTok, I get the incentives and the benefits of scaling. I think it's something we definitely need to look into, and I'm definitely going to give it a shot. But like you said, yeah, it is a lot of extra work, but if you work smart, I mean, there's ways around it.
Yeah,
But I like watching YouTube so much more, and I like seeing the trips and the falls, the whole process of it all,
absolutely.
just everything. It's like the effort that goes into it all is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I do try and be, which is transparent.
Yeah.
Like if I struggle with something, what's wrong with admitting that and showing people that, because there's going to be somebody else that's going to be doing exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I wanted to ask you, what are you doing differently now then? You really broke down a lot of your journey and your process there, and why you enjoy long form over micro content. Besides photography and video, like how else are you like diversifying yourself in the space?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of links into what we're saying about like Instagram and how they're changing what they want, and I'm changing what I want out of Instagram as well. Like if I was to go back sort of 2 years pre-pandemic, I would say that probably 80 to 90% of the work that I got came from Instagram.
Hmm.
And I was kind of always thinking, ideally, I'd want there to be more sort of different streams of income from different
Yeah.
sources. But while ever this kind of gravy train's here, we might as well ride it as far as it goes. And then the pandemic came, and I was like, okay, I now need to seriously think if Instagram was to go tomorrow, or if Instagram was to change tomorrow, where is where is my work going to come from? And
That's a big question a lot of people are asking right now.
absolutely, and I think that I spent kind of probably about 6 months thinking, where do I want to be going? What do I want to be doing? And for
Hmm.
me, I'm wanting to move away from a lot of the content that you actually see on my feed. So things like clothing brands and working with modeling agencies, and move more towards sort of corporate and commercial, to tie in
Right.
with weddings that I already do. Now, weddings I've been doing for years, and weddings were here before fashion and models and product photography and things like
Yeah.
that.
So
They'll
you've been
be
doing
there.
it for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Wedding photography, other aside from landscapes, wedding photography is the kind of probably the oldest genre that I've been doing.
And you're
I've been
very good at it.
I've been doing weddings for I think 8 years now.
Oh, that's fantastic. You got a long, long
Uh,
road in wedding.
I'm into three figures for how many weddings I've done.
Wow.
But yeah, I just love them. I love wedding photography, and I think what I've tried to do is kind of look at, along with wedding photography, what other areas am I going to kind of enjoy, and looking at more sort of corporate work and commercial work, working with bigger brands. And by brands, I mean sort of bigger businesses and companies
Yeah,
away.
a lot more corporate, like,
Yeah,
businesses
absolutely.
rather than just clothing brands and like things like
That's
that.
that's it. Absolutely. I just think that
I don't know why Instagram's become such a like a hotspot for like fashion, but it just has,
yeah,
but people fail to
absolutely.
realize that. But I think maybe
Instagram
corporate ones more like LinkedIn. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Instagram in Instagram in 2021 might as well be sponsored by Pretty Little Thing and Boohoo and ASOS.
Everything like that, any other brand you can think of that's like fashion, and
That's it, absolutely.
I
And
don't know why. I think it's just because it's everything is just so much more visual, and
yeah,
style and how you present yourself.
yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
with and a
And
younger audience,
we're that superficial these days that what you're wearing is one of the most important things.
yeah, no, absolutely. It's the whole reason they started adding shopping straight into your Instagram feed, right? So less time
100.
spending on contemplating, more time just checking out.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
it's uh, it's definitely something to think about. Like I think the fashion game is not easy. I mean, I do it for a living, and a lot of people ask me, how do I get into the industry? I'm like, would you? It's not easy. Like to be honest,
You graft. You have to graft. You have
now
to.
now more than ever, when I started like in 2018, there was less saturation, a lot of less competition, much more room for you to breathe and kind of like just shine and express yourself and to be noticed. And now it's like, I can only speak for Manchester because I mainly do most of my stuff here, but grabbing attention here is, very difficult.
Yeah,
Um, I think there are ways that I've gotten around it, which is I've been lucky enough to get a lot of local clients, but also branch out from regional to areas that are like in the south, in the north, in the Midlands of the UK. But also, I've got a lot of international clients that I've been able to reach out to, and they kind, just I've made the city look so appealing and attractive that it's become kind of like a test bench for clients to just be like, all right, I've seen this work on this thing that you've
absolutely.
done. I'm sure it'll work for us. And it's, like, I don't know how easy that is to emulate like in other places if you're not
Yeah,
in a city. And this is a question I asked my friend on the podcast. Manchester and London, Birmingham's coming up now as well. It's very difficult if you're not in an urban city, metropolitan city, to do fashion full time as well. You know what I mean? If you're
absolutely.
like living somewhere that looks a lot more like this, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. And the thing about it as well is, like Manchester, especially, like, even though I'm from Sheffield, obviously you know how much time I
It's
spend in
not the
Manchester.
north though, right? And Sheffield is a great
Yeah,
urban city in itself.
but Manchester, like for for every kind of clothing brand photography job, there are 20 people that want that job, and
Yeah, there are a lot of
you need
people.
to show why you're better than them.
Yep. Keeps you on your toes, not gonna lie. There are a lot of people who want to do fashion, and it is why who wouldn't? I love fashion, it's endless possibilities, just so like it's just never tiring. There's just something new and fresh, but it's very competitive, yeah.
Yeah,
It is very competitive.
and do you know what? This is the reason why I want to move away from it, because I used to love doing fashion, and I still do on a lot of shoots.
Yeah, you do.
All
Yeah, you definitely
and
do.
I want to be able to shoot fashion as and when I choose to,
Yeah,
rather than relying on that as the main source of my income.
right.
I still want to be able to do like maybe one, two, three jobs a month that are
Fashion
kind of
based, maybe.
fashion based, and whether that's fashion based in terms of it's a fashion client or
Mm-hmm.
a client that wants to, it's a model that wants to do some portfolio stuff, but we're going to play around with fashion in it.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing that, I'm going to do a much better job than doing what I was doing, like I say, 18 months, 2 years ago, where that was the vast majority of the work that I was doing. And it's like anything, if you do something enough, you're going to get a little bit bored.
Right
And bored
on. Yeah,
is
honestly.
the enemy of a creative.
And I think as creatives, you've got to, what would we call it, like the creative block. You got to find ways to always overcome being, in a structure. Because that's for me, like the whole point of being in this industry. It's like I always want to break out of structure. I don't try and always fall into routine. There's always something new around the corner. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I 100% see. And I find that, with fashion as well, especially, you got to understand that it's so competitive that, it follows trends, and trends can in itself play, into like just playing safe routines. And, a lot of fashion brands won't always give you the liberty of exploring your creative avenue.
No,
Some will, and I
absolutely.
am, yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to have some big ones who literally just give me full reign, and I'm like, oh my god, I get so anxiety, like so much anxiety when I get that full reign. But
Yeah.
for a lot of it's very like you said, you might find if someone who gets bored easily of doing the same thing, that it might not be developing you as a creative. Whereas in a lot of the
100%.
stuff you do, you'll push yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards.
Yeah, love this
And
show.
like you say, if you get clients where they're hiring you more as kind of a creative
As a
director,
specialist in what you're doing, yeah.
exactly, rather than, and like, I've been guilty of it. Like I've posted images on my feed where I've been working to a brief that's relatively strict, and I've not had that creative control, but I'm still posting them to my feed because I feel that I have to, and that's something that I got out of very quickly.
I think a lot
Like
of people feel like that as well.
100%.
Posting for the
Like
sake of just wanting to feel like you're not being left out. It's there, you're relevant, engagement, algorithm, all these different things add up.
absolutely,
Yeah. And then you fall into the habit of not taking risks, and then you fall into the habit of not wanting to specialize. And then you realize, well, what makes me so different than anyone else? And I think for me, it's like I'm always creating time on my calendar, like you are. Like you said, you're doing your own concepts, whether it's just getting a model, you guys are just creating content with each other, and it's like a little workshop for you to just break out your comfort zone.
absolutely.
And that's not always going to come with clients. And once you become successful enough to hit those big clients who are there in their niches, they'll really take you
Yeah,
for being a specialist.
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about it as well is it's really rewarding when somebody hires you and says, "We want you to take the lead on this.
Oh, love
We
that
we want
feeling.
we want you
Yeah.
to create, we want you to create something. We're trusting you to create something. We're trusting
Especially
you to
when they've like come
this
off
life."
like a low, like, ride on the last like drop of like their content, and they just need something really new. It's like a good feeling. It's like, oh, I've got a lot of ownership here. I love this. But then it's
That's
so
it.
much pressure. But that
Reinvent.
rush, that's the whole like excitement of being a creative, isn't it?
That's it. And whether it's like a product, or whether it's a piece of clothing, or whether it's just an entire branding,
Hmm.
you really think, right, I can reinvent this. I can show this in a way that it's not been shown before. I can show this in.
Yeah,
I can really get to the heart of what this is, and
for
that's
sure.
as a creative. That's
Yeah,
why
if
I love
you
it so much, because when you do weddings, you're pretty much in charge.
yeah, I bet,
I
right?
love. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can only imagine the amount of work, the direction, the thought process. Like I was saying this to Sophia, who also does weddings. Like I'm just like, if I miss this shot, that's it. I'm done for. I don't know how I would think about. So I mean, you've been doing it 8 years. Like what? Like how? That's just jokes.
You know what?
You
This
know.
is this was not on Instagram, not on my wedding Instagram, but on my Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of probably the first thing that I ever had that went viral,
Oh, really? When you were doing
or
Facebook, like,
viral of a sort.
yeah,
Uh,
got a lot of attraction.
yeah, I mean, it went like this wedding's from 6 years ago, I think, or maybe
Right.
6 or 7 years ago. And at that point, I had kind of very little online presence. I was
Mm.
only doing weddings, literally doing like maybe 3 or 4 a year, as well as having a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we came up with this idea that it would be the last woman standing rather than the last man standing.
Ah, clever.
That's the reason why you've got like the groom on the floor,
Everyone's just like, what the hell is going on?
and she's the last one standing.
Hey, weddings don't look so bad.
You know what? Honestly, we had so much fun with this.
Yeah.
The only problem that we had with this is like the most 21st century problem ever, which is we told all the guests that we were going to be doing this shot, and we
Uh,
said to them all, phones away, nobody take a photo.
People are leaking the
We've
shots.
had this planned, and we don't want people seeing it until the images are done.
Right, yeah.
And
People are just like,
it's the only time in any wedding out of, like I say, 100+ weddings that I've ever shouted at somebody.
oh, see,
Because
I couldn't
it
do
was
that. I
it was
might,
that asked them to make sure they didn't get the phones out or anything. The bride
yeah,
was like, please, nobody spoil this.
oh
And
my
somebody,
God.
and I just went nuts.
Wow.
But they had the phone, well, actually, they didn't put the phone away, they had the phone took off them.
It's like
But
school, man. You've become a photographer to a head teacher, like confiscating
honestly,
people's phones.
honest,
It's an absolute joke, man.
but yeah,
Like,
do you know what? I love this image. And what a funny story about that image as well. If you bring it back up, um, the last man standing one, if you bring that up, the guy on the right with the beard that stood up
yeah.
back, that's the groom's brother. And I've got another shot of this, and he was meant to be pretending to be sick, but he'd got his drink in his mouth, and he
Oh,
actually spat the drink all over the guy at the side of him.
so he was actually doing method acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was really in character.
That's amazing. I think so again, like, I think if you're a photographer and you're thinking about, and I think this has been a recurring topic since the last podcast, and I think it probably will be going forward because coming out of the pandemic, I think it's harder for you to, or anyone to just sit there and be like, I'm gonna only do this and just this. I think you have to start dipping your toes
Uh,
into different things. I know I have. I'm not just doing fashion. I've been working with a lot of like product. Well, I would call it
yeah,
product, but energy drink brands and all other
yeah,
kind of stuff. Like I've got like fitness and lifestyle brands. I mean, they kind of correlate into some degree with fashion, but it's like still not your usual stuff that you would see me do, and I'm like
yeah,
enjoying it. It's different, helping
yeah,
me
and that's
bring ideas from other
amazing.
ends to my main.
Yeah, the stuff that you're creating is amazing, and like you say, it's still very much your style. It's just a different subject.
Yeah, helping you think about how else you can add to your tool, because eventually, you might, like you said, consider in the future where your priorities lie, and if fashion's always going to be here, but you're not always going to be enjoying it
Absolutely,
if you're constantly there doing the exact same thing. So
that's it.
it's giving me like the release I need when I get too frustrated in just one little niche, and then I can rely on other niches to like give me that creative boost and flair, and then you
And
know
that's what film does for me. That's what film does for
yeah,
me.
film
That's
and wedding, especially your film, your wedding shots, the digital
yeah,
shots, it's all like I was just looking at your film shots just briefly then as well, but yeah, they all have like similar values to it. You're capturing a lot of I'd say what you're seeing, like you were describing before, like
yeah.
with film, not much editing can be taken, but there's just like
Well, that's it. I purposely don't edit any of my film shots.
yeah.
Don't I don't crop them. I don't straighten them.
Hmm.
If they're overexposed, they're overexposed. If they're underexposed, they're underexposed. I just leave them exactly as is.
Yeah,
Um, because with film, it's not as much as I love what images look like. It's not even about the images for me. It's about the process.
yeah, I think people understand like how much trial and error can go into film, especially if you're someone starting out,
Yeah,
and even like some of the happy accidents, that you get
yeah,
with film,
yeah, man.
like the way that the image is captured and how it's processed and how the light just completely looks different on here to digital. It's like there are like
Yeah,
so many little happy accidents with film that I just like, oh wow. I just
and
love it.
it's character. I love it.
Yeah, honest to God, I think as photographers the best thing you can do is just add to your toolkit and keep learning as much as possible. It will only make you more desirable
That's
for, let's say you're working with a client, and you're like, hey, we're thinking of a film concept. Can you do it? Yes.
yeah,
Can you do
exactly.
video? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. It's like, just a lot more desirable.
And
Um,
the other thing as well that I would say with that is don't be afraid to say yes.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to say yes. If there's something that you've not done before and a client trusts you to do it, do it.
Oh, I'll
Don't
give
be.
you a little story time. Like, I only started doing like studio not long ago, and I was only doing location shooting because I was in my comfy zone, and I was like, clients would ask me, "So can you also do studio?" I'm like, "Nah, you're gonna have to hire someone else." And I realized how damaging that statement was. No client ever wants to hire a separate studio and a location photographer. Like, why would you do that? I
That's
was like, I'm
it.
just gonna have to learn it. So I said yes, and it was like the day before the shoot, and I literally just hired out a studio. I went in there for about 2 hours, and I just learned everything I needed to for the main job of like e-com studio lighting. And the more I started doing it, the more I just started learning, and now I'm just like I could do it in my sleep now. I mean, it's like,
That's it. And why? Like, if for me, if a client comes to you and they're asking you to do something that you've not done before, and they're going to pay you for it, two things are going to happen.
yeah,
You're going to learn something, and you're going to get paid. Why are you saying no?
yeah.
Like,
Why would you say no
they've
to
done the same thing.
getting more
Yeah,
money, which will pay off your gear, insurance, everything? Like, come on. And it's more self respecting yourself because the clients will see your range and like, wow, you're very adept at what you do. So, what advice would you give then to people in a post-pandemic world that we're going into now? Like, I hope, fingers crossed. Um,
yeah.
how do you get clients now, man? Like, what do people do? And what would you say to new creatives thinking about hitting up people, trying to get jobs, trying to get clients? What is your advice?
So there's a couple of things. Firstly, shoot what you want to be booked for, and that is no matter what it is. So if you want to shoot fashion, if you want to be booked for fashion jobs, then find a model, get some clothes, and shoot. And just even if you do it TFP, or even if you pay for a model for an hour, if that's gonna give you images that you can then build that portfolio up with, you invested in yourself. You're gonna get that money back down the line anyway.
Yeah,
If you're to uh, do weddings, then approach sort of wedding dress shops or wedding venues and say, can I come and get some images of your dresses or of your venue? You can have the images free of charge. I just want to build up a portfolio. Shoot what you want to get booked for, because I suffered from this. I had a feed full of images of people wearing streetwear,
mm-hmm.
and when I first started wanting to move into more corporate and commercial jobs, like, what am I going to show them? Like,
Yeah.
they're not interested in that. So you need to have your audience in mind at the beginning. The
Mm.
other thing as well is say yes, and like I was just saying, say yes. If
Especially at the beginning of your journey,
comfort
yeah.
zone, yes. If you're at the beginning of your journey, if somebody wants you to shoot for 3 hours and they're going to pay you, I don't know, £100, say yes.
I feel someone who's young, right, coming out of high school, college, going into university, like that in itself still is something that you can use towards the budget of the shoot, your own cost of living, expenses. It's better than absolutely nothing when you're
100%.
starting out.
If you get, I don't know, if you shoot over however many times over the course of a month and you get £300, that'll buy you a second hand one of these.
Oh yeah, imagine all the stuff you could do with a camera that can do like
Exactly.
4K video, slow motion, HD, photography,
Just,
Wi-Fi,
just, just
everything's on
say,
there.
yeah, just say yes to opportunities. Obviously, don't let people take advantage of you. Don't let people take you for a mug. But really, really weigh up every single situation. Just say, am I going to get something out of this? Is it more important than what I'm going to get out of this financially?
Mm-hmm.
And just base it on that, because it's a dog eat dog out world out there. And if you
The
say no,
wild, wild west. Yep.
honestly, if you say no, somebody else will say yes. There's
Mm-hmm.
no doubt. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be like that, because people do undervalue creatives, whether that is photographers, videographers, models, stylists, makeup artists. people do get undervalued, but that's the reality of it. And you,
You've got to build your own self worth, and if at the start you treat yourself like someone you deserve to be treated like, then later on it's going to pay off.
100%. Like I said, don't let people take advantage of you. Don't let people take you for a mug. But if you're kind of 50-50 on something, say yes. You,
Yeah.
you you know when the answer is going to be no. But if you're unsure, always err on the side of developing yourself.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I'm gonna do some quick fire questions, short and
Okay.
easy ones. Two really. What's one thing you love about the industry?
The people, absolutely, the people. Yourself included, you know that I've made some friends for life. That if
Oh
it
yeah,
wasn't,
I love a little group. For sure, the
absolutely,
people are amazing, and I owe it to you guys, you, Sophia and Megan. Pretty much got you all on the podcast now, so I'm kind of
yeah,
sharing my experience of how I've grown in the industry with you guys, and the
absolutely,
benefits it's given me, and I would say that's enormous benefits. I feel like if it wasn't for you guys, I would not have the knowledge, the confidence, the the education as well. I was shadowing you all pretty much when I
yeah.
was learning. So,
That's all four of us. Like there isn't a single one of us that hasn't learned from all of the other three.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you have a strong circle within the industry,
yeah,
everybody benefits.
yeah. Grow with people in the industry and find those people who will serve your best interest, like you
Yeah,
will serve theirs. Like
line yourself with.
honestly, yeah, 100%. What's one thing that can be improved in this industry? You think?
Probably the people again.
It's a love hate relationship, right?
No, to be fair, I think it's just. I think there are two things. One is the most important, which is diversity, inclusion, and equality. Which I know that it sounds like such a cliche thing to say, and I'm very, very aware that I'm saying that sat here as a white male.
I would actually say, I'd say that I was actually really like, glad that when I did come in the industry, there was actually so much organic diversity. I know we have a lot more work to do, but one thing I
Yeah,
really love about this job is that I'm just constantly meeting new people who are so diverse. And I say that because it's helping me as a creative to think in their shoes on how I can create the concept for that
yeah,
kind of fashion. And, I'm not
100.
always just, I'm always on being put on my toes to like do research into who they are, what kind of person they are, the culture, and it's just like it's really really exciting. But yeah, I think when it comes to like the corporate commercial levels,
That's it. That's
that's
it.
where it gets
The
very
lowest level, at the lowest level, I think that it's a beautifully diverse.
so many people there, so
Oh,
many.
it's just everything, and it's kind of sensory overload, and that's fantastic. And like you say, learning everything. Um, like tonight, for example, I took the images round to a couple that whose wedding I photographed, sorry, 2 weeks ago, and that was my first ever LGBTQ wedding that I'd
Hmm.
photographed. And even through something like that, I wanted to know more about kind of the inner workings of it and making sure that was captured and that there wasn't kind of anything that I did differently. And I think at the lowest level, it's really celebrated and it's encouraged and it's enjoyed. I think it is at that top level where it needs to be kind of more than just an industry buzzword. There needs to be
Yeah,
some substance behind it.
yeah, it's very there's a lot of nepotism. Yeah,
If you
like
look
I
at
was
if
speaking
you
to
look at
Sophia
what
about.
if you look at what Fenty are doing, they're leading the way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
I think
there's quite a few brands. I've seen Burberry make a lot of great campaigns with like
yeah,
people from all walks of life. There is a lot of people using it for gimmicks for sure, um but I
yeah,
feel like there is a lot of pressure to conform than it is to just be who you are. And I think at the top level you see that, and it definitely is going to take a long time, and I shouldn't ever put anyone off from being in the industry because there's still so many benefits of just making new friends, which I feel like for me has like been such a huge payoff in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like there's just endless possibilities to scale. Like I just think like what I was feeling in my last job, and I was like, oh my god, I wish I had more people I could bounce ideas off, because you're in this like place where you're constantly speaking to the same people all the time, right? And then in the industry, it's like new face every day. New, there's an exciting moment to just see
Yeah,
when you meet a new model, a new creative. You have that nerd chat with someone about gear, and there's just so many
yeah.
like crazy, like it's endless, isn't it? It's just crazy.
And the other thing with that as well is the more people you meet that are from all different walks of life, again, whether that's people that are hugely successful, people that are fresh out of like high school, the more people that you meet and interact with like that, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you develop in yourself, and whether that's as a creative or just as a person, it's always a good thing. And I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
to be celebrated. At the lowest level, it's one of the best things about the industry, and at the highest level, it's
Yeah.
what I think one of the most challenging things.
Well, hopefully, we're getting there, I hope, especially with like, the amount of strides I'm seeing with independent people creating their own paths on
Yeah,
like TikTok, Instagram. We've kind of democratized the whole idea of being a model. Like I used to say
yeah,
before, like you had agencies, you had publication magazines, you have editors who would decide what is going to be on this and that. But
yeah.
honestly, now you
Now,
can
Bob
get
decided,
viral overnight. It's ridiculous. Crazy, like it's absolutely crazy. And the same can be said for like creatives, photographers, videographers, film shooters. Like it's mental. So I think that's a positive note to end on. Andrew, I've
yeah,
had an amazing time talking to you. I think I've learned a lot. Yeah, we're
and
filming this one quite late at night. It's 12:30, so that's what I'm gonna be sleeping on, thinking about. But
really appreciate you having me on, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And I
yeah,
think
mate, honestly.
this whole series, honestly, and again, like you say, you learning from doing these. I've learned a lot
Oh yeah.
from watching these, and again, a huge shout out to you as well, because you have a whole range of people on here, and everybody that you've had on here, I've picked something up from, and that's
Yeah.
obviously the whole purpose of them. So yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
thank you so much for that. And, a special shout out to Andy's YouTube page as well. I'm just gonna quickly jump that on again. I think there's a range of like topics you're covering there as well, like from
Yeah,
film to fashion to just kind of your like story times with like the goods and the bads and a realistic expectation on being a
yeah,
creative. So like, if you want to take this conversation further, you're doing it a lot on your YouTube channel anyway. So that's something to definitely like, for people who are interested, follow Pandy's journey. And yeah,
no,
thank you so much for coming on, man. And I'll see you next time. Thank you guys.
thanks so much, mate. Take care.
See you later. Thanks for checking out this episode of Time Out. Don't forget to support each guest by checking out their work in the description. And you can also support the show with a like, subscribe, and hitting that notification bell. Till then, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.